Just few more tools and tabs before we get into saving the template. Okay, thank you, Tom. That's fine. Could you please ping me a message whenever you need to ask a question? It's very unfortunate that as basic as using a microphone is not allowed on your browser. Maybe tomorrow morning, did you get a chance to restart your machine in the lunchtime or no? Yep. If you did not restart the machine, maybe later in the evening, once we finish our class at 4 p.m., I normally stay back for an hour until 5 p.m. so we can test doing few more settings to resolve this issue. Oh, I see. Okay. That's maybe you could get like a loaner machine for tomorrow just to join the class. I mean, it's just a browser that you're using. Yeah, maybe you could also grab your home machine, bring it to the office if you're working from office. Hopefully they would allow. Okay. Thanks, Tom. Got it. Okay. Thank you. All right. So now let's move on to the next topic here. So we were talking about this view tab. Any tabs that are not shown currently, you could show them back if they have hidden for some reason or you accidentally closed them out when you were docking and repositioning it on your machine somewhere. So if you accidentally closed it, you could toggle it back on from view tab. That's what we did. And if you double click on top of this tab, it goes back to its default position or it actually goes back to the previous position. So let's say if I undock the components panel and I'm putting it right to the top of the screen towards the upper portion of the graphics area, if I bookmark it here, dock it here, now if I take it out again, if I double click on it again, you would see it went back to the previous position, not to the default one. So I could bring it back, drop it in the middle box, the rectangular box preview that you see, so it stays side by side. If you're going to put it something like this, you have to look at the bluish, colorish, squarish area that it is going to capture that region that it's highlighting. So I need to put it right in the middle so it puts it right beside one another. Okay. So Ryan's asking, oh, he's suggesting a great suggestion. Tom, you could try that. Maybe you could do it later on. Thank you, Ryan. You could try it later on. Good. So now the next part is right in the project tab. I told you anything you do on this tab, which we talked about adding mainly locations, functions, adding cables to this project, PLCs to this project, any kind of properties you add on the project tab will be saved in your template, right? So next tab is the process tab, all the renumberings. Until now, we did just one type of renumbering, which is renumbering of the documents. If the same thing occurs in your components, which we'll do in one of our lessons. So let's say if Victor tells me, Vip, you've got 3 push buttons, S3, and I have 2 push buttons on the door location, S1 and S2. So I'm going to go locate all the push buttons here. It does look like I only have a S3 push button. Oh, the door wasn't expanded. So I've got push button S1, S2, and S3. So let's say if I happen to delete my S2 push button component, so I'll say I do not want to shop for it, I don't want to place the order for it, if I go right click and delete that component and it's asking, hey, Vip, if you delete the component, the symbol will delete. I'll say, okay, that's fine. Yes. So I have let go S2 component. Now I'm stuck with S1 and S3. So if Ted's going to see my bill of material list, he's going to think, if he looks at it S3 component, he's going to think Vip has 3 push buttons, and then he's going to be looking for S2 push button that I deleted. So unfortunately, it automatically doesn't number the component marks for you like this. So I am now stuck with S1 and S3. If you're telling me, Vip, I want to change this to S2. So you should not do it manually by right clicking, properties. You could see right now we are using an automatic mark. S is coming from the classification buttons and switches class. And this is just the order number, the transaction number 1, 2, 3, the third one we added. So I'm not going to make it manual. That's not the best practice. I won't make it manual and make it S2. No. So I would go to the process tab, click on this button called renumber marks. So we'll do different sorts of renumberings throughout our lessons. So when I click on renumber marks, it's asking me VIP. Do you want to do it for whole project? Are you recalculating the order numbers and also if someone right clicked and changed the mark or name manually? I said yes, both. And then I'll say I want to recalculate my component mark. So see, if the same thing happens to location, function, terminal strip, terminals, harnesses, cables, you could check them all. In this case, I'm not worried about cables. I'm worried about component. So once I click OK, are you sure? Yes. Now you could see my S3 component has automatically converted into S2. Then I've got my S1. So please give me a thumbs up or let me know if this makes sense to you. Why do we use renumber marks to renumber components? Same thing applies to locations, functions, cables, terminals. Yes, thank you, Spike. A good question. Give me 1 second. I'm getting, okay, thanks. So now, let's say if I've got this fuse F1 and Spike tells me, Rip, I don't like this naming convention F1. I want to use something fancier as FUSE1. So one option is I have, before I start creating any components, I have to go to my library, classification manager, then I'll find my fuses class and I'll say in my fuses class, instead of having the F root value, I want to have it as FUSE and click OK. Next time I create any component from this fuses and disconnectors class, I'm going to get it as FUSE1, FUSE2, FUS33. So either you could change it beforehand manually here if you always want to follow that standard. If it's an if you do want to keep that standard of F1, the default standard, there is only one or two transactions that you want to update. Then you would go right click, properties, once you go to the properties, if I'm making it manually as FUSE1, 2, 3, whatever, and hit OK, you can see not only my component marks changing here, but if I go expand that component, look at the child symbol, the symbol that's used for it, the update now reflects on my symbol as well. But Casey is going to say, VIP, this is not even a default standard. What are you following? Which standard are you following? So there is some sort of standard this program is following, that why it's using a specific root value, why S for buttons and switches, why not B, why X for capacitors, why not C. So it's following some standard. You could see if you like that, or if your company wants a different standard, you can change that. So now if I go to my process tab, let's say if my team member has that habit of making changes manually, and then I'll go renumber my marks, not the documents, marks, and we will use this in lesson number 6, wires. Tomorrow morning, we'll talk about the renumbering wires. So I'm going to renumber my components. Definitely, I'm not only renumbering my component order number, but I'm also renumbering the manual mark. So if I uncheck the manual one, this one will not be updated. It won't be changed. So if I click OK and I uncheck the recalculate the manual one, and are you sure? Yes, you can see this one is not affected. But if I go back and click renumber marks, and if I say also renumber, if anyone has given a manual numbering to the component mark, not only the automatic numbering, now, if I click OK and say yes, you would see the numbering has converted back to F1. So Spike, does that answer the question for you? Does that make sense? So this would apply to your location, function, everything. So if I go to my project tab, locations, you can see the default value it picks for location. The first location is L1. I can go right click and go to the properties of it. So you could see the properties of location has L1 mark. I could call it manually as LOC1 and click OK. So now it's LOC1. Or I can, if you're telling me, VIP, it's a lot of work making one item manual, then second item manual, third item manual. Can I not change the numbering convention using a formula? That's what we'll do in few minutes. We'll get into all the formulas in this big configurations button on project tab, and we can automate, use a formula to automate all the numberings for components, for wires, for cables, for symbols, component mark, all sorts of numberings can be done from there. Okay, so you could see now, since I renamed my location to LOC1, you can check it out here. Same thing, process tab, renumber marks, this time renumbering locations, also recalculating manual marks, change it to automatic, hit OK and OK. And you could see now, since it has somehow picked up L3, because my first main location, L1 motor room, L2 Ted's shop, and then third is this electrical enclosure. But you can manually make changes to these if you want. You can rearrange them, move them up and down in the project if you would like. You can add one sub location, Ted's shop, to motor room location like this. So now my Ted's shop is part of my motor room location. So let's say if Ted's shop has the motor as well, I can drag and drop that motor component in Ted's shop. So Ted's shop is a child location of motor room location. And then I can create a click brand new location would be a child location, or project tab locations will do that in lesson 15. I can pick existing location, motor room location that has Ted's shop. Once I pick a name of project and click new, it gives me a main parent location. If I pick existing location and click new, it's going to give me a child location. So I'll call it Casey's uh, electrical panel, something like that. Right. So I created a second child location. How? Picking existing location, then clicking new gives you the child location. Or you can right click here, brand new location, and I can just call it as test location and hit OK. So now if I minimize my motor room, it's going to minimize Casey's, Ted's, and test, because these three are children of motor room location. So any questions with locations, functions, classifications, libraries, renumbering as of now, please? No? Victor, are you with us now? I know your cursor's yellow. Did you come back from lunch? I did not hear back from you earlier. Oh, awesome. Thank you. Ted, are you with us? Hi, Ted. Are you back? Oh, awesome. Okay, so I did not hear back earlier from you. Good. Thank you. So a couple more things here. The next tab now. No worries. Thank you, Ted. So if you look at this, we talked about three different types of drawings. We talked about a line diagram. We talked about a schematic drawing. So I showed you when you have a line diagram drawing, overview layout drawing, you're not showing a detailed point-to-point wire connections, so or cable core connections. So we'll use a line diagram tab to insert symbols and draw cables. In the same way, when I switch to the schematic tab, now it shows me the schematic tab on the top. When I activate schematic drawing, I can insert symbols and wires from schematic tab to create these detailed schematics. Next tab is the draw tab, cut, copy, paste, drawing rectangles. We'll use this. Next one is modify, fillet, trimming, very basic commands. Import, export tab. So in lesson 14 and 15, I'm going to teach you how to export PDF using this button. Do not use the print icon that you saw here that I toggled off from this drop-down list. So we will export PDF where you would have your components tree, your pages tree, and your hyperlink jumping from one component to another or one symbol to another. So let's say if I have a motor component M1, if I showed a motor picture that I clicked with my camera on a line diagram symbol, and then I have an actual motor schematic symbol with showing the detailed schematics. So now when I would click on one symbol on schematic, it will jump to the line diagram page. Motor symbol, if I click on line diagram motor symbol, it will jump to the motor schematic symbol. So if one parent component has multiple pictures shown, multiple diagrams shown, multiple symbols shown, we can jump from one to the other and vice versa, right? So all these hyperlinking bookmarks will be available in the PDF. We'll do that, right? So some of you would say, Vip, I have built up so many symbols. In lesson 8, we'll learn how to create these symbols from scratch. If you have symbols you built in AutoCAD, ZooCan, ePlan, DraftSide, anything, you can go ahead and import the symbols right here. Unfortunately, when you import your drawings or data, any text that you see will not be recognized. Only the symbol shape, lines, circles, rectangles, squares will be recognized, but nothing as in terms of text would be recognized. Someone asked me once, he said, Vip, I'm importing a DWG symbol that I built up in my SolidWorks mechanical drawing. So he built up a drawing in SolidWorks CAD. So then this guy said, how come the CAD DWG, I cannot import it successfully here and recognize my attributes, my text? The reason is we noticed in the back end in registries that this program, they back in the day, they must have bought it from some another company in the older days. So until SolidWorks 2023 in the registries, the SolidWorks electrical program registry settings are not under SolidWorks folder. They're under T for Tom. It's called a trace software. So any attributes that that are coming in, any text that is coming in will not be recognized at all, even if you're bringing a file from SolidWorks or AutoCAD, right? So we'll talk about library items. You already know now we've got bunch of symbols, 2D footprint symbols, title blocks, and we'll talk about macros, what macros are in lesson number 2. It's pretty basic, and we have one full lesson 9 on macros. Our all cables are stored here. Manufacturer part data is stored here. Why termination started in SolidWorks 2021. We'll talk about this in our lesson 5 manufacturer part lesson. We added a new library. We know what the classification does, and we'll talk about terminals in cables lesson 7. Okay, so the tools tab, the biggest part here is if you guys zoom in and zoom out on your graphics area, if you have zoomed in or zoomed out too much, to zoom in and zoom out, I'm rolling the wheel up and down. Some people, they struggle with this. They would say, Vip, I come from AutoCAD. Zooming in is rolling up, not rolling down the wheel. So it's up to you. If you're not comfortable with the zoom orientation or direction, you can go to the tools, click on interface configuration. This window will pop up for you, and you have to uncheck this button called reverse zoom direction. So by default, it's on. You can toggle it off so you're not struggling with zooming in and zooming out. Okay. So under this interface configuration, there are a few more settings. You can change the color of your marker color, your cursor color. My cursor color, you can see now it's kind of greenish. If I would see my cursor on the graphics area, um, you would see the size of the crosshair size of your cursor that you saw. You could control it from here, make it smaller or larger. I like to keep it smaller crosshair. You can make it larger. I know AutoCAD users keep a pretty large crosshair. You could do that. So zoom direction is here, zoom speed is here. You can click here and change this. Background drawing color. So this creamish color that I have is what you see here. If you're telling me that you're working with AutoCAD, often you're used to the black graphics area, you can change this to black. So you should not have any problem with the text here. Since I will show you in your text properties, the text property is black/white. So if you've got a dark background, it's going to automatically pick a whitish color. If you've got a white background, it will pick blackish color for the text. Okay. So next one is the ribbon font height. If this text is readable for you, great. If your eyesight is weak, you can change the text font height from here. So how many documents do you want to open at once? I mean, I never really changed this. Why would you open so many documents? Number of documents, more number of documents you open, slower your electrical might get. So please open what you need, right? So these are some graphic settings. You don't need to change this. But one cool thing that you should change from this tab here is this one. I never used to teach this to my students because I thought this wasn't a big deal, that in the back end, whoever made this program, they have defined by default, you would see in your case, the values are set to metric. Why? This program is created by a French company, Dassault Systems, who owns SolidWorks, right? So all the units they have set up by default are metric. So One user called me on support many years back, and his project was behaving pretty weird, even though the main units are defined from the project configurations tab, the units. But I noticed there are two main spots to check the units. One of the spots is this, which you would never change. If you're in North America, you would pick imperial, imperial, or inches, and pick your units, right units that you want, and hit OK and apply. Right? Apply and OK. So, in the same way, English is the only language I want for this program, unless you want to go to Chinese or Russian. You could pick that, and I'm going to hit apply and OK. All right. So, your units was the one thing that I would change there. So, the next one is after my tools, I've got application settings, which we talked about, that how to point your electrical data folder, projects folder, templates folder, collaborative server location. We pointed all that. And we would link it to PDM. Not using this, there's a new tool that we have to download. If your company buys PDM Professional, you can control revisions of electrical in the PDM. So Spike is asking, if you create a drawing in metric, someone else opens it with imperial selected, will it automatic? No. So this unit that you see here will not be affecting much, even though it's available here, but this is not, interface configuration is not what exactly is controlling the units. Units would be, this is something that we will just change once and we will never come back here. The units are, it's a property of the document. Spike will talk that when we'll save a template now, we'll come into configurations button under project. This is where we'll change all the units. So remember I told anything you change on the project tab, any of these buttons, anything on the pages tab, anything on the components tab, all three tabs will save as a document property, which means if you define a configuration property of unit system, dimensions, cable size standard, this is what's going to be saved in the project. So if you save the project Spike as metric project, that's what I would see when you will email that project over to me. Even though I did not bother to care if I had imperial units selected here in my interface configuration, I would still see the project as metric. I mean, this one doesn't really make a big difference. I apologize, I keep clicking on this. This one doesn't really make a big difference for preferences, right? It's just preferences, but you can go ahead and pick this so we don't see any bad glitches. Okay. If you swap from metric to imperial mid-drawing, will it automatically change? Yes, it will automatically switch that. I'll talk about that in a minute. So Ted, if I go into my project config, unfortunately, it doesn't do the maths for any numerical values you see. For example, if I convert to imperial now, which we'll do in our next few steps when we'll change these properties to save a template, you could see they're saying if we have a symbol and wire, you would see a small connection dot here. So this is my connection dot. The diameter is 1, which means if right now my units were millimeters, so it was 1 millimeter. If that tells me, Vip, change the units on inches, imperial, it will still remain 1. It's not going to convert that into 0.00000 inches. So it doesn't do the conversion for me automatically on the actual text values that you see, any values that are typed, any text heights that are typed, nothing's going to change automatically and nothing's but yes, in case of the drawing itself, the drawing that you're working with, we've got some drawing parameters here. Do you want to see the grid? Do you want to have the ortho on, snap on? So if I right click on one of these buttons here, you could see my units are also stored in here. So if I go back, right now my project is in metric units, my drawing is in metric. If I go back to project, configurations, change it to imperial gauge, click apply and OK. Does it change my drawing? Let's check. Right click, you can see it's still metric. So it does not automatically convert that for you. We will learn that in symbols lesson as well. Someone went into library, created a brand new symbol. So when you click on brand new, it's asking you what units. If you picked imperial units, and then Ted's going to come back and say, Vip, I accidentally picked metric units. I want to convert it to imperial. So you cannot just right click and change property of the drawing or DWG file and change it to imperial and expect it to scale automatically for you. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to manually scale it, make it smaller or larger. right? So changing the property does not change the drawing scaling or any text values. So Ted, the answer is going to be no. Okay. So what units you pick, which is why you should say two different templates, one metric template, one imperial template. Remember? So if I start a brand new project, Ted, if I click on the new button, it's asking VIP, do you want an IC metric template or do you want an NC inches imperial units, NC standard imperial template? So I would pick and choose on the go beforehand. What units do I want? What units are saved in that? So now the last part is on my window tab, I can have, if I have multiple drawings open like this, one, two, three. So when I tell people, hey, jump onto page 3, they will go back and they will say double click. No. So now you can see since I changed the units, some of these values and text heights have gone crazy. I can go back to my project configurations. Now earlier it was metric, it's 1 inch now, which is huge. So I'm going to change it back to metric, 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 hit apply and okay. My drawing should look better again. Okay. So a couple more things here. On window tab, if you've got multiple drawings open like this, you can click on vertical tiles, have multiple drawings open at the same time, side by side. You can have horizontal tiles, right? So you could close one drawing at a time, close, close, make one of them full screen like this. If you zoom in or zoom out too much, and now you don't know how to fit to screen, you can press the middle mouse wheel twice. So in any white space, I'm going to double click on the middle mouse wheel. It fits to the screen. Or, so you would use something called Control E. So I'm going to type that in the chat for you. So Control plus E. So E stands for electrical. It allows it to fit to screen. So Control E, like that. If you forgot using double click like I did and using Control E, E for electrical, you could also go to View tab and use this button. So zoom to fit. So I could click zoom to fit. It fits to the screen. My whole drawing is going to fit to the screen. Okay, so the last tab here is the help tab. Throughout the lessons, there is lesson 7. We'll talk about terminal strips. They haven't given you much documentation on terminal strip. So we'll get into this help tab and look at some additional topics that are not part of this book. For example, they haven't talked much about terminal strips. So in lesson 6, we'll register on this electrical content portal account using your work email address to download more symbols, cables, manufacture parts, all that, right? So you could click on About button here, which is the last tab on the help. It opens up this small window. It's going to tell you which year. So I am currently using Service Pack 1. The latest one they released a couple weeks back, few weeks back is Service Pack 2, which I haven't updated, right? So some people will say, Vip, should I go to SP2? I mean, if your company does not know how to update or upgrade, so you would be asking us to do that for you, and we would be charging you services charge that we are assisting you update your server and the client. So we suggest our clients to not update for every service pack. Don't worry about it. You can look into the list. SolidWorks does release a list that what's the difference between Service Pack 1 and 2. So if there is a silly difference that some sort of color has changed or highlight has changed, then Victor would say, VIP, what's the point of going to SP2? The new enhancement is useless to me. Why should I give you $5,000 to upgrade this program or the server machine or my SQL database, right? So we would guide you that if there are big changes that then it makes sense updating, otherwise you're okay on that service pack or that year that you're using. So any questions with these tools and tabs, please? So when I use a word graphics area, this is what it is. Graphics area is this. Okay, graphics area, or you can see on the right hand side on my properties pane, I've got this little home-ish icon resources tab. All the tools we saw on some other tabs are listed here. I barely use this. This is your properties tab. This is the shortcut to use macros. We'll learn that in lesson 2. Macro is copy pasting the circuit data from one project to another to avoid rework. Then this is quick access palette to drop the symbols, right? Quick access palette. And right on the left hand side, you would notice by default when you install this program, any drawing that I click on, by default, this preview window is on. So a lot of people, they complain, Vip, I was clicking on a drawing, it took 5 minutes to open it up, it's running in circles. It's because you have this preview window on, which is wasting your time loading the preview first. So I like to click on this first button, keep it off, that I can simply just double click and open the drawing. Don't waste time in the preview for me. So I uncheck the preview and turn it off. The last part here is called this status bar. So just like we have this taskbar on the bottom, so there is this status bar. Anywhere my cursor is, this XY coordinate position will tell the position of my cursor. You need to see the grid. So grid is on. So you can click on top of it, toggle on your ortho, toggle on your snap, object snap, or you can right click on any of these buttons. You would see the same drawing parameters window. This is another spot to check your units. You're working in metric units, and we will talk about all these snap spacing, grid spacing throughout the lesson. Okay, so someone said, Vip, I defined my drawing parameters. So anything that you see in this drawing section here is specific for this drawing. So if Tom tells me, Vip, I had my units changed, I changed some of these values, should it apply to all the drawings in this project? No, this is only for a specific drawing. So if I change my snap spacing or grid spacing, snap spacing to the units are metric, I can, let's say if I make it 10 millimeters, close this. If I go to another drawing number 3, let's check the properties, right click, and you can see my snap spacing is still 5, the default value. So these properties under the drawing section, they only apply to this specific drawing. Okay. So any questions with this, please? All these tools and tabs now. I hope you did understand or you understood about the units, about starting a brand new project. Now the last step is let's learn about saving a template, right? So Alex would say, Vip, you're lucky you had this existing project you used. When I go back to the office, how am I going to start a brand new template? So I'm going to close this project that I was using, for example, to look at the tools and tabs. So you would go back to the office. What you would do is you would start a brand new template. So you would go to Home, Project Manager, and you would click on this brand new button. So if you like one of these existing templates, you can start a new project using existing template, check the properties if you love them. Good. You can change name, description, use that for your project. In my case, I'll say, oh, I don't like any of these. I want to create a brand new one, empty with fresh settings. So even if I picked empty settings, some of the default settings would still be defined. So I'm picking an empty one. I'm not using any default template. So I'll click OK. It's telling me, hey, are you sure? There are so many properties that you need to define for the correct behavior. Do you want to continue? I'll say, yeah, okay, fine. And we'll give it a good name. I'll call it spikes electrical template. So I'm going to give it a good name. Copy this. I'll scroll down, give it a good description in English. Don't bother giving descriptions in Chinese, French, Italian, Spanish, any of those. Only the English field is what we need to type. Spikes electrical template, or I'll say electrical. In this case, the units that we're going to use is, I can put the name, the actual units type. Is it NC standard imperial units or metric units? I can put that in the name itself. So, next time I use the template, I would know what units did I use. So let me refer to the book. You can switch on to page number 13, please. 13. So they want me to use imperial units. So inches is the units that I want. So I'm going to change my, I'll say electrical template in NC standard, right? If I'm typing that like this, or right on the top, I can say spikes electrical template dash NC, and I'll click OK. So before I click OK, or once I click OK, it will create that template for me. And you could see, first thing I told you to do is go to your Documents tab, Pages tab, expand your book, open the drawing. But you would say, Vip, I've got nothing in my book. So let's right click on this book. You can go to the properties of the book. You can give it a good description. You can call it book one, or you can call it electrical project for PLC conveyor for the conveyor belt. You can use the functionality of it, right? So whatever functionality do you want, you can give the name of that book. Within that book, I can create brand new folder. I can create a cover page, and then right click on the book. I'll create a new schematic drawing and right click on the book. First, I need to create a line diagram. I can move my line diagram above the schematic. I need one schematic. I need three more schematics. So I'll go to multiple, go to scheme, add three more. So I've got this. Now the problem is, if you look at number one, cover page, Control E fit to screen, hey, I do see my origin right here with the green arrows, but I don't have anything on this drawing, no title block like we used to have before. So we have to check all the properties in this big button called configurations button. Everything's defined here. So we'll fix that. We'll define title blocks for uh, for your line diagram drawings, for schematic drawings, for report drawings. Anytime you create a brand new drawing, your title block will be predefined from your configurations tab. So a couple more minutes, then we'll save a template. In my components tab, I've got no component here right now. So if Victor's telling me, Vip, my manager wants the bill of material list right away. If you noticed in the previous example, we were manually inserting a symbol, getting into if I get to my documents tab or my schematic drawing, so we were manually dragging and dropping and using the symbol, dropping it here, which was creating a component. Or I can go to the location. We'll learn that in lesson 4. Right click on location. I'll say, hey, in this location, I need a new component. So I can pick one button or second button. So I'll click on component button. What are you looking for? Is it a power supply? Root value is G1. Fine. Which company's part is this? Which power supply are you buying? I'll click search, and whatever power supplies I get, generator, I can add a generator or any other power supply which is bringing in two circuits for me. I'll click on plus sign, hit OK and OK. You can see my component G1 is here. So if Tom tells me, Vip, add all these components before you start dropping symbols, before you add title block, before you add wires, cable, I need the bill of material list because it's going to take a couple months for this order to get to our office, right? So you would go right click new component, or one button or the second button, doesn't matter. Pick any one button. Add a new terminal strip, add a new connector, add a new PLC, add a new PCB. So you would add all those components from the right click. If this guy had a property that we defined on the go, which company's transformer is that, what part is that, if that detail is defined, then on the project tab in your reports, you would see in your bill of material report, if I add that report. So we'll learn that in our last lesson, reports lesson. So I'm going to search bill of material. All the BOM reports will show up for us. And you would see my G1 component showed in my BOM in my shopping list, manufacturer company's name, part number, component mark. And if I would go ahead and not link, if I go to the properties and do not link the manufacturer part number on this, if I remove that, if I say, I don't know, I know I'm using transformer, I don't know the part number yet, if I remove that, and if I'm sending a BOM list to Tom, and I added 20 parts, but none of the parts have manufacturer part real life number defined, in my reports tab, my report's going to be empty. It's going to say, Vip, you added components, but none of these components have manufacturer part data linked to them, so they won't show in your BOM. So give me a thumbs up how this component got added here without inserting a symbol. How did we show up this in the bill of material list? Please tell me. No questions? Okay then. Few more settings before we save a template then. So let's get to the project tab. All the properties are in the configurations button, and we will fix all these tabs and click OK, and then we'll save a template. This is our last step. So on general tab, what language do you want? My main language is English. I don't care about second language, but book wants me to use Spanish. I can scroll through the list, hit S on the keyboard, and I can use my Spanish language for this. The next part is the what units do you want? So we are working in North America. We need imperial units. So I'm going to pick my units are imperial. My dimensions are in inches. My cable side standard is gauge. So I'm picking the right units, right language. How do you want to display the date in your drawing? Do you want to display a date, month, date, year? I like the second last one. Why? Because it types down the the alphabets for my month. So June, July, July, it types that down for us. So I like this one. Then comes my revision numbering. Do you want your revisions for your drawings, which we'll talk about, um, that do you want to start it from 123, 012, ABC, or do you want to pick a custom formula? So I'll say keep it simple, 123 numbering. So now you could see there are a few other properties here for the books, that the name of my book is showing up here. Then if any PLCs that I use in this book, what should be my PLC channel address? That's coming from here. That's a formula. Anywhere you see this FX button, that's then you know you can control it automated using a formula. So most of the formulas will be listed on this FX mark tab, which is this tab on the top. Most of the formulas are here and some are on this text tab as well. So the next part is PLC drawing. So anything that you see in this list for configurations, that means styles. There are different styles for PLC. Cassie would Casey would say, sorry, Casey would say VIP. I want a vertical PLC symbol. Alex would say VIP, I need a horizontal symbol. Spike's gonna say VIP, I need a red color outline line. Wilson's gonna say VIP, I need a green color vertical PLC symbol. So um, Tom's gonna say, VIP, I need to see the PLC mark N1 on the top. I want to see it on the bottom right corner. I want to see it on the middle. I want to see which company's PLC is that. So all these different styles, properties, orientation, shape, rectangular shape, square shape, it's saved within your configurations. So everything kind of has a configuration. PLCs has its own terminal strip. Do you want a vertical terminal strip drawing? Horizontal? So everything I can pick horizontal for terminal strip. For connectors, I can pick connector lab for connection label. So we've got different styles for all. For PLC, 16 channels per page. Cross references, we have one lesson on each. It will make a lot more sense then. Drawing style, I'm working in imperial units. I'll pick imperial, right? So the next part is, if you're using older versions of SolidWorks, you would not see many of these settings here. These three sections are brand new sections they added for us. Many years back, people would really get mad at us on tech support and they would say, hey, I finished all my project. I had a symbol linked with the wire and cable. I was just repositioning the symbol, fixing it properly so it links properly. And my wire mark, wire tag, wire number, wire identifier, whatever you want to call it, disappeared. So then SolidWorks, took this as a huge problem that people were facing. They launched a tool called Allow Open-Ended Wires. So even if my symbols and wires are not properly connected, or if I reposition them, once I reposition them right away, the numbers used to disappear, the wire numbers, but now they do not. So you have to check it on Allow Open-Ended Wires. So give me a thumbs up if it makes sense what this button is for. Allow open-ended wires. If you're unlinking a wire and linking it back again, you don't want your wire data to disappear. Wilson, are you with us? Yeah, okay, thank you. Jean, Vadim, your cursor's yellow. Are you with us, Vadim? I know it could be pretty boring, sleepy on day one since you're not attending classes. You're not in school anymore. Thank you, Vadim. Okay. All right, so there are last few things here. This is a new enhancement here now. Exclude electrical drawing, electrical components from mechanical BOM. So do you only want to have electrical items in the bill of material list, mechanical items, or do you want to have both? So we will control that from here in our last lesson, right? So there are some properties here. Controlling location mark, function mark, we'll do that in lesson 15. We'll And then if you noticed when I was archiving a project, saving a project to send it to Spike or Ryan, it gave me a pop-up window, update drawings. It's because we chose that ask me. So for this template, I can say never ask me to update the drawings, but always update automatically. So I'll use always, that do not ask me, but always update any which way when I'm backing up a project, that let me back it up and update automatically, right? So now in the similar way, we've got few different tabs. Graphics tab, you would notice we've got connection dots here. That means if I have a symbol and wire touching the symbol, you would see a red color connection dot will appear up here, that your connection is secure. If my symbol and wire are not connected, my red connection dot would be missing. I would not see that. So you would see a red color connection dot. Not always. I don't want to see it always. I only want to see is when my connection is connected. When my wire is connected, only show it then. If you pick always, even if you have a few symbol line right here, you would see big connection dots on the corners. Even if you pick always, it's going to show connection dots for each symbol, right? For fuse F1, for example. Next one is wire connection dot. If I've got a fuse component here, then let's say if I've got to here and then I have another wire connecting from here to here. So when multiple wires are connected like this, we would see a connection dot here, but in pink color. So when or a directly connected wire, if it's the same type of wire linked, so we would see a pink connection dot from wire to wire. But again, previously my units were in metric. Now I'm working in imperial. So my values did not automatically convert the value for me. So I have to manually type in the value in imperial. 1 inches circular dot will be huge. So I'll change this to 0.01 inches, right? 0.01 inches. In the same way, there are different other types of lines we will work with. So let's say if Ryan tells me, VIP, you told me that your push button S1 and S2 both are on the door location. Can I show in the drawing a little line, outline a dotted rectangle maybe in red color? That when I draw this special, there is a special button called location outline, function outline. So when I create a location line, if I create rectangle around my two push buttons S1 and S2 on the drawing, it's gonna show here door location like that. It looks pretty. Then without looking at the properties of push button and another push button, I would say, yeah, these two are push buttons, they're on the door. So it shows the location detail right away. So in the same way, there's a functional outline. So do you want to see the location line, function line, terminal strip lines? What color, what type of line do you want to see? So throughout the lessons, we will use these tools. We'll always come back and refer to this. Okay. The biggest part is what's on the bottom here, nodal indicator. So what this means is, let's say if I've got one component here, second component here, A, component B, component C. If I linked these three components like this, if I ask you, Ted, can you tell me which two components are directly connected? You won't know unless I give you the wire numbering and I call it that at this terminal number 1, so this component has terminal 1 and 2, wire number 18 and 19 are coming in here. So wire 18 is coming from A, for example, 19 is coming from B. When you see two wire numbers at the terminal like this, then I'll say yes, C is the common component, A is connecting to C, B is connecting to C. But without wire numbering, it's harder to figure that out. In that case, we'll use this button called nodal indicator. So what it does is it gives you a slopey line like this, and your connection will look like this. Then I'll say, okay, A and C are directly connected, B and C are directly connected, but A and B are never directly connected. So that means C is the common component. So give me a thumbs up if it makes sense to you what this slopey corner here nodal indicator did for me. It gives me detailed point-to-point connection that A and C is connected, B and C is connected, but A and B are not connected, right? So we will see the slopey line nodal indicator. So I can check it on and hit apply. So if you click OK, this property manager will close on you, but that's not what we need. The next tab is the symbol tab. So when we will add wires, we'll draw the wires. When you right click on the wire, it says wire show or hide wire label. So someone asked me, Vip, what's the difference between wire tag or wire text or wire label? So when you talk about wire mark, wire tag, wire formula, it's an actual text which is coming from a formula. All the formulas I talked about, they would be coming mainly from fxmark formula page or text page. But if you right click on the wire and say show wire label, you would see this symbol, all the properties here. If you right click on, there are two types of numberings of wires we would do in lesson 6 tomorrow afternoon or morning. You would see, if I do equipotential type of numbering, any equal potential wires will have the same wire number. If I do wire numbering style, there are two types of numbering style: wire numbering style, and second one is called equipotential wire numbering style. Right? Which style do you want? If you do equipotential numbering, when you right click on the wire, it's going to say show equipotential label. So any text that you could not show using a formula, you can show it using this label. So when we will use this, we'll come back and check these labels. If Spike's telling me, Vip, create a cable label, there are some properties I cannot show in the cable formula, show them in the cable label. Then it's not, when I right click on the cable line, it's going to say show cable label. Nothing would come up if I use this template. So I'm going to click on browse button here and I'll find a simple cable label symbol, which is this. So now if I right click on any cable and say show cable label, it's going to show me the length of it, description of it, tag of it, function of it, which function it belongs to. In the same way I have a location label, then there is a button called create a location outline, like I showed you earlier, around those two push buttons. Then it's going to show the location tag on the top, which location, what's the name, what's the property, what's the description. That's going to be shown here. So the next tab is attributes tab. Someone told me, Vip, for all the symbols, I want my text to be blue for the tag A1, B1, C1, D1. So I can click on add a symbol attribute here, that I'm controlling a short tag. Long tag or component tag will have your location, function, and the tag. I only need a short one. So if I pick a short one, I can say, this guy, I don't want it black and white, I want it blue. So this book doesn't talk about this tab at all. You can add your regular symbol attribute, title block attribute, or any other custom attributes. You can control one attribute in all the items in one step. So I'm controlling the text height of it, text style of it, text color of it. Do you want the text to be visible, not visible? Do you want to work with layers? Do you want to print it or not print it? You can control all that for one text variable, for all the symbols, for all the title blocks. So give me a thumbs up what this page does, the attributes page. It allows you to control the global properties of attributes for throughout the project. Jean, Ryan, Vadim, does that make sense to you? Hopefully you're not feeling sleepy. Yeah, thank you. Good. So a couple more things on the text tab. We have formulas, and you could see the main thing that matters to us at this point is the text height. So in my English text, Spanish text height, text font type, font style, and text height. So I'm going to change this height value. My units are imperial now. I want my text height to be 0.1. I'm not going to sit here all day with 0.1, 0.1. I could do multi-select using Windows direct selection, type 0.1. I have this, and on the bottom here I can do the multi-select here and make it 0.075. Hit enter and I have this like this. If you notice the color, text color, it's black and white. If you pick a black background the way you do in AutoCAD, then automatically you would see a white color would appear up for you in the text. If it's a lighter color, you would see a black text like this. So in the same way, there are other different types of text. We'll see the equipotential formula text, wire numbering formula, origin destination text, location text, function text, the font style, text height, the text color, and formula. It's all coming from here. So we'll learn that in throughout the lessons. We'll use these tools. We'll always come back and change this. Next one is the formula mark page. Now you can control formulas for anything, for a book, for a folder, for a drawing, for row numbering, column numbering. Books asking us to change a formula for the drawing. They're saying, Vip, you've got a boring numbering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They want me to give a fancy number that my numbering should have total number of digits should be 3, which means if it's number 1, it's going to give me two preceding zeros, 0, 0, 1, and the next digit is number 2, then 0, 0, 2. If it reaches number 10, then I'll only get one preceding 0. So I'm going to create a formula in such a way that it gives me this numbering here. So for my drawing, I'll click on this FX button here, and this is where right on the bottom it shows a formula. Right now it's using a very basic simple formula using a regular numbering 1, 2, 3. I'll go to my predefined formulas that I have saved. So we have four different tabs. What's saved already? So I'm going to use this file order number strgval. So let's double click on it, use that formula. If I click on this calculator sign now and I click on the first number, that's 0, 0, 1. If I say which is going to be my drawing number 10, that's going to be 0, 1, 0. What's going to be my drawing number 11? That's going to be 0, 1, 1. So you could see what this strz mathematical function does is it adds two preceding zeros and it's limiting the total number of digits to 3. The variable I'm controlling is the page number, drawing number, or file order number. And this VAL value is letting me work this formula here, right? So I'm going to hit OK, hit apply, and click OK. So now I'm going to do the renumbering here. Process tab, formulas already applied. I'll say renumber my documents, documents button, whole book, recalculate, and you could see right here the formula shows up here that VIP's using this formula. I'm not worried about book and folder. I'm worried about the drawings. Once I hit OK, are you sure? Yes, you can see the numbering got updated for me, right? So if Wilson tells me, VIP, I want 0, 0, 1, skip number 2 and 3, then I want 0, 0, 4, skip 5 and 6, then I want 0, 0, 7. So in that case, I can go back to my project tab, configure, formula page, click on FX button for the drawing right here on the right hand side, and we can change the formula. Yeah, so if you have created this condition that you're right, so you would go to the calculator and you would test if my drawing number is the formula would fail, then you would have to have a formula with 4 digits if that's what you need, right? So now if you say, let's say if I want my drawing number 400, what's the number going to be? And you could see it's giving me 400, which is stupid. So the formula is not working, right? So alphanumeric, yes, you could do that. So you could create if statements. You could type in alphabetical. I'll give you those formulas that we have created. So we would be using the functions tab. We don't teach you how to use if statements, mathematical functions here. It's a separate topic. So you should know how to use functions, text functions, create if statements, and whatnot. So we used strz function, which fixed the length of our total number of digits with two preceding zeros before this. And there are some other functions such as if statement. Unfortunately, they accidentally typed if into IIF. That's what we would use here. So if you want to use alphabet, you have to type in this if statement that I want to use A, comma, B, comma, C. You have to create that kind of formula. Okay. And if you want to create customized formula, your company has a specific requirement, you would email us on support and we will create that formula for you. All right. So in the same way, the formula that I want to use is the formula I want to use this formula here. Double click. I'll go to my recent formulas. If I have any specific formula, I love it, I want to save it for future. I don't want to bother typing it all over again. So go to the first tab called predefined formulas tab. This is where you can click on save formula. Once I save, it saves that for the next time. Then I don't have to bother typing it again. So you could see what it's doing is not only it's giving me preceding zeros, limiting the total number of digits to 3, but 3 minus 2 means it's skipping 2 digits from in between. So once you get good at these mathematical functions, but again, you don't have to waste a lot of time on this. Create a ticket with us. We just need to help you set up a formula once, then you are good forever. So I'll click OK, apply and OK. And now if I renumber again, process tab, renumber documents, all the settings look good. OK and OK. Now you could see the numbering is flipped or skipped 2 digits in between 1, 4, 7, 10, 13, and 16 with zeros in the beginning. So everything is coming from a formula. If you want alphabets, we will define that in the formula, right? So Tom, Alex, did that answer your question? Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right. So the last part here is coming back to the configurations. You've got your formulas now on your formula page, your mark page, right? So you've got a few other settings here that are very important. So look at this setting here called, we have one lesson on origin destination formula, one lesson on cross-reference formula. We'll get into more details what these formulas. You can see they have used if statements and some complicated formulas, not just a regular variable that we have used. And if you noticed when we were picking that drawing variable that I'm controlling the file order number, this variable is greenish. That's used from variables tab. You have to look through the list, read that gibberish name of it, the description of it. What are you looking for? Are you looking for location variable? Are you looking for the type of the drawing? Page number, file order number, what are you controlling? So sometimes people will say, Vip, you're lucky, your formula looks good. My formula is showing me red color errors on the bottom. So if you typed anything, I knowingly typed one extra circular bracket here, round bracket. If I type a wrong formula, use a wrong variable, the yellow section is going to give me a big red error and it's going to say, Vip, stop right here. Your formula is no good. We cannot generate that formula for you, right? So I'm going to hit OK now. Let's see a few other things. If you are a controls engineer, you should know when we create ladder logic diagrams, we let our diagrams to go from top to bottom, left to right. That's how the numbering is going to be calculated, or our ladder logic diagrams are evaluated. In the same way, when you do the numbering of the wires and components, do you want your numbering from top to bottom, left to right, or left to right, then top to bottom? So we have picked up whatever the default is. That's what I want, right? So now on the very bottom here, some buttons are grayed out. So if Ted tells me, Vip, I'm pretty bored with the way you're using component mark F1, F2 for the fuses, F3. So instead of showing this, maybe you want to show location with it. You can see my component formula is a root value, which is this, and order number, which is number 1. If you tell me root value plus order number plus location plus function, then my formula is going to be longer for the component mark, for which right now we saw F1, then you would see F1 dash L1 dash F1 for the function, L1 for the location. So if you want to change any of these formulas, you can click on customized marks, click on FX button, and you could change those formulas, right? So the next part is title block. Almost done here, stay with me. Now I need to pick a cover page for my title block. So I'm going to click here once. In your older version, there used to be 3 dots, ellipses right here. It would allow you to browse and grab another title block. Now that option does not exist. You have to now, because it also gives me a big preview right on the bottom, I could go ahead and click on the first button here, that what type of title block do I need for my cover page. So we added 5 or 6, three title blocks in Mercer's library, Gene Mercer's library. We will use those 3 title blocks. So look on page number. I also want to change one another property, which the property of the text I forgot. So you could see any type of text on top of the wire, on top of cable. So all the text height we controlled. We can also control the position of the text in the XY coordinate. Anything that's grayed out, you cannot change that. but I'm going to refer to the book and I'll change the text position as well first before I apply title blocks. So I need this minus zero point 0.1, so minus 0.025, right? And if you're not happy with these positions, that's okay. You can always come back and change it. You would see we'll keep changing them throughout our lessons if we are not happy with this, right? So the last part is the title block part for my cover page. Referring to the book, look on page number, almost the last page, page 22 or 23, the second last page of this lesson. So for cover page, they want to have only one title block cover page for one drawing. So I'm going to click select and view, and into the filters tab, remove filters. We'll go to our library, Mercer's library. So once I pick that library, I have 3 title blocks that I brought in. I'll say, yes, I want to use the cover page training lesson. So if I check it out in the list mode, in list mode, not only it's going to show me my description, but also the name or this crazy title or name. But when you look into the list thumbnail mode, the picture mode, it shows you description, not the name. That's a description. You can check it again, list mode. This is a description, not the name. That's what you see in thumbnail in all the items. So I'm going to use my cover page and bunch of these schematic drawings. All these schematic drawings, I'm going to go ahead and use for 3 of them holding shift. Then I'll go browse. I need the schematic drawing. So even when I'm not using filter, I know the blue ones because I only have few items. I can grab this one, and all the last ones I'll go hold shift, multi-select, browse, and I need report training lesson. This is the one, double click, use it. So once I do that, and if I hit apply, it's going to give me a pop-up window. VIP, you added some drawings already. Do you want to update all of them, add title blocks to them? I said, yes, update it for me. So now if I click OK, if I open up each of these drawings and if I hit Control E, you would see it fits to screen. So double click, Control E, fit to screen. Next time I go right click, add a brand new schematic drawing, it already has a title block added to it. So give me a thumbs up if it makes sense. Where do you define the title block? If you want the title blocks to be predefined, please tell me. Okay, so let's say if I have an amazing Trimec company's logo title block, so I could go, so now let's say Ryan tells me, VIP, in all situations for all the schematic drawings, I want this specific title block. I said, great. In the backend, in configurations, in title block, I specified what you wanted for all the schemes. Then Ryan's going to say, VIP, in one transaction, I want to change it. I want to have a different one. You could go to one drawing at a time, right click. If there is one specific one that you want to change, go to title block, you can replace. Once I click on replace, this time I can say, hey, maybe I'm looking for a title block with this title block. So I can double click and select it. It's asking me, VIP, the same title block you're replacing is used many times. Do you want to replace the selected transaction only, or do you want to replace all the transactions? I'll say, wait, selected only. So whatever company's logo I had used, I was working with one of our clients, and you could see that title block now started appearing up for me here. So I could go right click, title block, replace title block, remove title block is not required when replace works for you. If you open title block, open the DWG file, made changes, you can save your work. Now you have to go right click title block, update title block. If Ryan tells me, VIP, your logo doesn't look great, reposition it. So I can go right click, open title block. Once I open it up, I can click on top of it and I can reposition it. If you want to add this logo, you would go to draw tab and you would use this button called insert image. Do not use attach image, it hyperlinks it, and you would use insert, so completely added in here. So if I repositioned it, save my drawing, save my work, it's saved to the library. Now I can update, right click, title block, update. Are you sure? Yes, it moves that logo in the middle. So any questions with this, please? How to replace title block for only one drawing? Please tell me. Okay. All right. So the last part is on the configurations tab, the last button is libraries button, library and palette. What this means is, let's say Ted works with 10 of his team members. They've got 11 electrical users, and all of them are adding up so much data to the library. Now, Ted would call me and say, Vip, my network speed is pretty slow. When I insert a symbol, it's taking 10 minutes just to search that symbol to load that symbol. So then I'm going to say, Ted, you have large libraries. Let's tell your program, let's tell your template that do not waste time searching all the unwanted libraries. We definitely want to use our Mercer library that we created. So we want to uncheck all the libraries that we do not need, which means if I'm looking for a symbol, looking for a manufacture part, looking for a title block, it's only going to be looking for the libraries that are checked on. So see, Mercer library is here, it's checked on. So then we can save a lot of time that way. If you start building your libraries, then you have to use only of your library, not some other random libraries. Okay. So the last part here is someone asked me, Vip, when I click on insert symbol, does it know I need imperial symbol? I need schematic, I need metric symbol? No, you have to define it here. You have to tell them when I look for schematic symbols, give me metric symbols or imperial symbols. Line diagram, give me metric symbols or imperial symbols. And for schematic, all the units I want is NC units, imperial units, inches. I'm grabbing inches for all. That's what I need. So this is where you define the units. I'll hit apply and OK. So our whole project is now ready. So if I'm ready to save a template now, so that means I can go to my home project manager. I love this template. It won't let me like close the project. I can right click and close it right here, or I can right click on the blue line item, close it from here, or I can close it from the top. Once it's closed, now I can go ahead and click on Save as Template. If I love that name, Spikes Electrical Template NC Imperial Units, or if you forget that NC standard I stands for Imperial, you can also type in Imperial manually and click OK. So we saved a template with all those units defined. Do you want to open the folder where we saved it? Yes. It shows me in the back end that VIP in your electrical data folder, you have bunch of templates. If I do not want this quintals template I created in one of my previous classes, I can delete that. Let's say if I don't want this Japanese template or base training template, delete that. I'm left with 4 templates. If I come back, start a brand new project, you could see I'm only left with 4 now, and I could pick up Spike's template and use that to start my new project. So any questions with this, please? Any questions with saving a template, using it now, next time? No questions? Wow. Okay then. So could you go ahead and finish exercise 1 for me? Can you create a brand new template for me? Look on page number 25. So I'll give you 25 minutes. So day 1 is normally pretty slow. We'll have to speed up since we are learning about the basics, tools, and tabs. So I'm starting to look at your labs now. Please start working. Page 25, exercise 1. You don't have to open any file for this. You're just starting a brand new template, brand new project. I'll wait for you. If you need me, just say my name, please. If you're feeling sleepy because you had a heavy lunch, you can go grab coffee or tea for a few minutes, then start working on this. This exercise should not take you more than 5-10 minutes. Thank you.